Falling objects are a leading cause of death and serious injury on job sites. Without suitable precautions in place, falling objects pose a risk not only to workers but to general public passing by the site. Hi, I'm Grainne Moore, HSEQ Manager at Kapitol Group, and each week during the Safety Month of October, I'll be catching up with key consultants and subcontractors to seek their thoughts on key safety considerations on site. Today we've got Toby Salisbury from Grips here to talk about falling objects. Toby, what are the top 4 dropped items?
They would be mobile phones. There's not many of us that haven't dropped their mobile phone. Hard hats that get dropped an awful lot. Radios get dropped a lot. And the tool that gets dropped the most is a tape measure.
What are the potential risks with dropped objects?
So the potential risks of a dropped object is obviously the serious injuries that they can cause to workers. So the thing that we need to keep in mind is the velocity that's built up when an item is dropped. So it doesn't have to be very heavy and it doesn't have to drop from a super high height to cause a serious injury to workers, or even worst case scenario to members of the public if items land outside of the building site. The other thing to keep in mind is plant and machinery and dropped objects hitting them and causing serious damages, and also the damages and costs related with dropping tools and breaking tools.
Let's talk about deflection. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so deflection is one of the most important things to keep in mind when we're talking about dropped object prevention. But if a drop happens and the dropped item hits something on the way down and then deflects, the effects of that can be catastrophic. And there's a really interesting story, a nasty story, about a worker in New York who was killed by a falling tape measure. Now, there was a rigger working on top of a building, a 40-storey building, who dropped his tape measure. It went most of the way down the side of the building and then hit a piece of plant and then deflected and shot across the building site and got a worker in the side of the head who was just getting out of a delivery truck. And he suffered a cardiac arrest as a result of the shot and actually died on the way to the hospital.
How can we prevent falling objects in the workplace?
So there's multiple ways that we can prevent items from falling in the workplace. The first one would be just general good housekeeping. A lot of dropped objects that we hear of relate to housekeeping. And then as far as control measures, there would be what we call primary, which would be securing tools so that they can't fall in the first place. That would be things like tool tethers, sealed tool bags, but they're preventing the drop happening in the first place. And then there would be secondary control measures, which would be around things like barriers, drop netting, and drop zones, which they do allow for the drop to happen, but they're minimising the effect of the drop once it's happened.